Thanks, Jacob, and welcome everyone to our word for word reading series event featuring the winners of the 11th annual Penman Review Fall Fiction Contest. With more than 900 submissions this year, we're thrilled to showcase the 5 exceptional writers selected as our winners. We have 3 of the winning authors here with us tonight to read from their work, and although 2 people couldn't make it, Jacob and I received permission to read the other 2 winning pieces. All 5 stories can be read in SNHU's literary journal, the Penman Review, and we will share links to the pieces as the night progresses. We have the chat open where folks can share their support for the writers. And after the readings, we'll open it up to Q&A, as Jacob said. I'm going to turn things over to Jacob for the first story of the night, and I'm going to put a link to that story into the chat right now. Go ahead, Jacob.
Fantastic. Thank you, Paul. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Out of 900 entries, The Replacement Shift won 5th place in the 2025 Fall Fiction Contest. It was written by Ryan Fagan, who could not be here tonight, but has given me permission to read his work. Before I do that, I'll read Ryan's bio. Ryan Fagan is a Minneapolis-based writer and a SNU graduate student. When he's not writing, he works for a large national retail chain at its corporate headquarters and runs a freelance digital marketing consultancy. So his piece is The Replacement Shift. I will be reading that. Just going to pull it up on the Penman Review's website. And here we go. The Replacement Shift by Ryan Fagan. I clock in at 6:02 p.m. and the scanner greets me like a metronome. Beep, beep, beep. The lights hum too bright for dusk. Carts yawn, doors breathe us in and out. The start of the evening shift means sunlight still bleeding through the front windows, soft and sickly, like a promise the building won't keep. Hannah's already at guest services, rolling quarters. Last week, we made up a song about the broken label maker. I hum it to jog her memory. New hair? I ask. She smiles. Same hair, different smile. It's been this way, she says, pleasant but practiced. How can I help you today? We had that label maker bit, I say. She laughs, clean and wrong. We appreciate your feedback, she says, feeding the quarters into the safe. By 8, the store feels hollow. Families trickle out with carts of groceries and fatigue. The intercom hums. Beep, bag, smile. The music switches mid-song to something wordless and warm, like ocean waves recorded in an office. In the convex mirror above aisle 9, my reflection looks slightly younger. My freckle is on the wrong side. I rub it. It stays. Miguel, the evening team lead, passes by wearing a black polo shirt. He usually never wears anything but red. You're doing important work, he says in that guest survey cadence. What? Keeping guests happy. We appreciate your dedication. His smile snaps shut like a lid. At 9 p.m., the break room smells of burnt popcorn. A poster reads, We're not just a team. We're a family. Below it, tiny print. Family members pick up extra shifts. The fish in the tank are smaller than yesterday. Maybe replaced. Maybe I'm tired. Hannah sits across from me. Her name tag gleams new. Mine's clouded with fingerprints. You're back on register after break, she says. Then zoning soft lines. We call it soft lines now? It's in the handbook. When I ask about her cat, the old calico that sneezes like a person, she blinks. I don't have a cat, she says, then softer. Oh, Muffin. She's fine. The voice is bright, empty of texture, like a voicemail. In the bathroom, I wash my hands too long. My reflection blinks late. My freckles trade places again. I scroll old selfies, different eyes, messier hair, a crooked tooth I can't find anymore. The me in the mirror looks edited. By closing, Miguel's polo is now a dustier shade of black. The playlist loops the same song twice. When I joke about deja vu, Hannah just says, That's above my pay grade, like she's proud of it. 2 nights later, more of them have changed. New smiles, new voices, same names. I test people, mention shared jokes, little moments. They blink and reset. At 10 p.m., I tell the empty aisle, Do you ever feel like we're just copies? The end cap towels say, sale, $9.99, polite as ever. By midnight, the mirrors show me in threes. I hold my breath. All three keep breathing. Most nights it would be time to head home. The week before Christmas makes it worse. I'll be here till 3 in the morning. The store is on a 24-hour schedule this week for last-minute holiday shopping. Another shift is starting, but they overlap with mine. The team wall photos all look fresh, edges curling up on the tape, from the tape. Hannah's mouth no longer wrinkles on one side. Mine looks newer, steadier, less tired. At 12:04 a.m., the intercom crackles. Attention team members. Replacements will begin in 5 minutes. Please proceed to your stations. Miguel stands at the doors, eyes glassy as display cases. He doesn't move. Neither does Hannah. The air holds its breath. The doors slide open, and in walk us. A second Miguel, polo red. Another Hannah, name tag pristine. And one for me, uniform crisp, eyes awake, posture confident like a stock photo of competence. They stop in front of us. My double says, "You can go home now." "I still have 3 hours," I say, because that's the only truth that feels solid. "You can go home now," it repeats, tone flawless. Behind them, the other stands smiling in formation, hands folded neatly, waiting for permission to start. "What happens if I stay?" I ask. The other me tilts their head. "That's above my pay grade." The intercom clicks off like a throat clearing. The store hums again. I step backward into the stock room. Towers of boxes, the smell of rubber and paper. The emergency exit glows red. The sign says, "Alarm will sound." I push it. It doesn't. Outside, snow floats down under the parking lot lights. The world looks printed, flat as a postcard. I unlock my car, sit with my hands on the wheel. The rearview mirror holds my face steady, and I wait for the lag. None comes. Through the front glass, I can see my replacement already scanning, smiling, efficient. The rhythm carries through the dark. Beep, beep, beep. I could drive home. I could quit. I could wake up early, go for a run, call my mother. Or I could stay in the car and listen. The scanner keeps time, steady as a drum. Beep, beep. The snow quiets everything else. I close my eyes and try to remember which version of me still works here, which one already went home. I can't tell, so I wait. The rhythm doesn't stop. Beep, beep, beep. And that's it. What a fantastic story. I love this one. And Ryan, congratulations on writing it. As I was reading, I was just like reminding me of, it just the pacing of it and just the tension, something's off and the execution is so well done. And um, being a person who has worked in retail myself, it's like it's close to home. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for writing that.
It's got,
Paul, yeah,
it's got a little bit of that Severance vibe
I
to it.
was thinking Severance, and I have just started it, so no spoilers, anyone. But I watched the first episode and like the first half of the second episode. But Pluribus,
Oh
also on
yeah.
Apple, I was like,
Yeah.
this also like this like everyone is a unity except you, like or something like so. Pretty cool stuff. So again, congratulations, Ryan. Thank you so much for letting us read it, folks. You can read the Replacement Shift and all of them on the Penman Review site tonight. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Paul, who will read the next work for us.
Yep, and I'm gonna throw the a link to the next story into the chat before I start reading. And like Jacob did, I'll give a little bio of the author who couldn't be with us tonight. Um, all right, so I'm excited to read this piece by Andrea Lasowski called Stone Teeth, which won fourth place in the fall fiction contest. Andrea is a part-time professional and a full-time student of life and literature. She's working on a bachelor's degree in creative writing and has more unfinished stories than she can shake a stick at. She takes vacations in places she wants to write about and loves the American West. Her themes include grief, trauma, love, and recovery, the small stuff. Andrea asked me to convey her thanks to Professor Matthew Muhlenberg, who taught her first creative writing course at SNU, and whose encouragement meant a lot to her. All right. And without further ado, let me jump into this story by Andrea Lisowski, Stone Teeth. Half a mile behind the Cathedral of St. Casimir, there's a sad excuse for a waterfall. It's 3 feet high and 20 feet long of stratified shale, iron gray, stream bed pitted like a tooth soaked in sugar. It doesn't rain much in eastern Kansas, but it rains enough for the blunt-nosed minnows to hatch in spring. They live their whole lives in the stream behind the church, a supernova of life and death and life again. Caroline spends many Sunday afternoons there once church lets out, and while her parents are occupied by their friends in the congregation. The internet told her that blunt-nosed minnows can live up to 5 years. She doubts most of these fish make it to 2. The summer crush of heat turns the stream into a cluster of disconnected micro lakes, each with their own school of blunt-nosed Loch Ness monsters, soon to go extinct when the water dries up. But every year it starts all over again with soft little see-through eggs. Caroline is 14 years old, and everyone likes to tell her she is a girl by telling she is not being girly enough. Fix your hair, Caroline. Try your makeup like this, Caroline. Wear this dress, Carol. Carol, that's what her father calls her, is the only girl she doesn't want to be, so she tries not to be any of them. She prefers green to pink. She won't paint her nails unless the polish is black, and she would truly, deeply rather cut her hair off than ever straighten it again. She has all the angst of her age and at least twice the loneliness. This Sunday afternoon, Caroline sits next to the plunge pool in an alcove sheltered by trees. The waterfall is only a trickle, and a breeze stirs the floating leaf litter of a disquiet autumn. She's watching the minnows swim. Their fragile silver bodies tuck in and out of the rocks around a sunken branch, and sometimes they touch the surface with their lips. She doesn't know why they show themselves like that, but she knows why they hide. The internet says they have predators, the crackles, a kind of bird, and painted turtles. And Caroline knows because she understands, because she has a predator too. This is our special secret, Carol. We promised not to tell anyone, remember? All animals hide, even the dangerous ones, especially the dangerous ones. Sometimes Caroline comes along tufts of fur attached to bloody, gooey skin next to dog-like impressions in the mud. She wants to be one of them, a coyote, a beast with teeth enough to bite and no one to answer to but Mother Moon. Caroline takes a smooth, white rock from the pool, pretends it's a piece of Mother Moon, wonders what the priest would say to that, chucks the stone back into the water and doesn't care what the priest would say. She doesn't listen to him anyway. He talks about fathers too much. He says that God sees everything, but God can't even see the heavy paw on her leg in his own house during prayers she doesn't say, during songs she won't sing. Her mother believes it's a phase, that she's moody for the sake of her age and not her situation. What's with the attitude? Honestly, I swear, you don't have it half as bad as I did. Caroline grabs another rock and throws it, hears it plunk and imagines the ripples are a tidal wave to swallow her whole. She looks for more rocks, uses them to build a wall, discovers the rocks that work best are flat and about the same size. She builds until she has a fortress big enough for her toes, and then her fingers grab around a rock with teeth. She gasps and pulls her hand away. A perfect red bubble grows from her thumb, and she wipes it on her jeans before picking up the rock again, gently this time. It's salmon pink and milky ash with black specks. The internet says that pink means potassium, but it isn't the color that makes this rock unique. It's the shape, a pointed oval, and the edges, like chipped glass all the way around. Caroline knows immediately what it is. She's seen pictures of them in her American history textbooks, in gift shops for a few dollars. But she's never found one, never held it in her hand and remembered that there was a time before metal, people before the pioneers. They were the Osage, the call. She can't remember, but it's the first thing she'll ask the internet about when she gets to the computer at home. She traces the hard fringe, studies every arch and pit, and realizes the arrowhead is broken. It was the tip, newly fractured, that made its mark on her skin. The pain is a sweet howl, a sacrifice to Mother Moon, because Caroline is 14 and rebellious, and her parents' religion has nothing on the religion of animals. The waterfall is her church, the dirt, her altar, the pain, her prayer that other pain, deeper pain, will stop. She tests the stone again. She can't help testing it again, and tries not to squirm as she draws another red line over the raspberry scars on her arm. Caroline, time to go. Caroline holds the arrowhead tight to her chest as her mother calls for her. She has many gifts from the waterfall: pieces of quartz, a deer bone, a snail shell as big as a quarter. But there is nothing she treasures as much as this. It feels as though the artifact came directly from Mother Moon, a claw of her own to cut and shred her enemies. Carol, let's go. Again, she rubs her thumb over the fracture, softly this time, and wonders how many beasts her arrowhead has slain, if it was ever used to kill a predator, if it can kill hers.
Oof.
And yeah, that is an incredibly powerful story. And
It is.
I want to thank the author, uh, Andrea, for allowing me to read it. And I hope she enjoys the reading when she listens to the recording.
Well, I enjoyed it, Paul. So thank you so much. And yeah, just I shared one paragraph in the chat, but like you could pull any paragraph from this piece and just be like the pacing of each sentence and word is just like perfectly placed to just blow your mind every sentence and stuff. So just
Yeah,
fantastic work,
it is
Andrea.
amazing. And when you
Yeah,
consider, like, the entire story is taking place when she is sitting by this
mm,
waterfall. I mean,
yep,
nothing happens, and
yep.
yet so much happens in the story.
Very impressive. So thank you so much again, Andrea, for letting us read it, and thank you for submitting to the fiction contest, and congratulations. Well, let's keep this party going. We're going to have actually our first reader for the night who was able to make it. So Jess Proser is here. Let's see if yes, you are on camera. So that's great. So it's my pleasure to introduce our next reader, who is Jess. He wrote the third place story Home Base. Bear with me as I get through Jess's bio here. Jess Proser is pursuing his MFA after 2 decades in television and film. He's never finished writing a novel, but he's tried a few times. Short and sweet. Love it, Jess. So thank you so much for being here tonight. Looking forward to reading or hearing your piece.
All right, thank you. Yeah, let me zoom it in a little bit so it's a little bigger. Thanks. I'm so glad I have to follow that story. That's man, that's tough. Okay, so home base. You live in a small 2-bedroom house that is more like a big shack with walls that make you feel like you're in a storage space. You live in a military base in California where they train the Marines and the Army and any special forces right before they deploy to Iraq or Afghanistan. NTC, they call it, the National Training Center. They built a recreation of a marketplace of cities like Fallujah, Mosul, or Kabul, and housing areas you find in the desert, which are much different from the one in yours. It's 2009, and the military only has one base like this to train its soldiers. You're the woman who decided to marry the guy whose hair was high and tight, his shoulders were broad and round, with the thick dick from that night you decided you were going to get drunk with your friends and go home with the hottest soldier on leave who hit on you. He hit on you, went home with you, gave you 3 orgasms before he left the next day. You lived your life, went back to the casino, dealt cards, to the wishful thinking and cynical and day player pros. He fought his war, and when he came home to your desert, you introduced him to his daughter. He held her high. He stood post every night, he'd say, so you could sleep. Your little one gets 60 days with her daddy. Then you left to fight again. You couldn't sneak up on him now and put your hands on his shoulders or under his arms over those wooden abs. To touch him without him seeing you approach might get you hip flipped and twisted into an armbar before he recognized you. But when you put your hand on his back that first night, you felt his muscles, his inner strength. You felt safe, secure. He was the kind of guy who would pummel any misogynist who fucked with you at the bar, calm himself down, check on you, make sure you were just fine, then order another round and get right back after it. You miss the gamblers and the drunks. When you drive through town, it's beige. The clothes the men and women wear on the base are beige. Your home is beige. You are surrounded by the desert, and your storage space house shakes all day long. You want to see so many city lights illuminate the desert night again. You want to stay out late and wake up tired and hungover, and the best lay of your year face down in bed where the military corners got sexed off the mattress. You want 1 week you don't have to make every meal. 1 week you don't have to wake up first. 1 week without the bombs going off and Tommy Jr. wondering if, when the house shakes, does daddy feel it? Can the bombs hurt daddy, or is he okay because he's far enough away from them like us? You pick him up from preschool and sit him at the table while you try to make brownies, but the eggs fall off the counter onto the floor because the Apaches are practicing maneuvers over a populated area. It was supposed to be an easy way to stay together. He changed jobs. You move on to the base. And when he comes home, he trains the next batch of military volunteers how to survive when they run through an occupied neighborhood in the middle of 110-degree heat or at 3 a.m. in the desert blackness. He teaches them how to survive amidst the improvised chaos, how to react to seeing an EFP detonate the Humvee in front of you. He trains them, then deploys with them, then leaves them in their desert and comes back to yours. You want him to stop fighting. How do you choose between 2 families, he asks. This base has a state-of-the-art replica of any town square they're likely to find themselves patrolling, weapons pointed down, fingers near the triggers, eyes darting, looking for vest-shaped lumps under burkas. Before you go fight a war with no demarcation line or anyone facing off against you for 100 yards away in any recognizable form, you come here to Fort Irwin, and learn how to fight a war during everyday life. There have been worse real estate decisions. You don't live in Tornado Alley, but you do live in the Mojave. You're tired of the desert. It would be worth it to live under an airport at this point. Some of the other wives go for a tour of operations where they will see what their husbands are doing every day. You decline because you don't need the details of your nightmares to be more specific. They have someone at the base who manages the care packages. You send him pictures of his now 4-year-old son and 3-year-old daughter. There you go, there's a typo. Sometimes a picture that's just for him in a prop classified envelope. But you're not that get after it woman he met at the bar that first night anymore. So there are more reasons why not to send him what he's missing than ones that feel worth it. Also, he's not gone long enough anymore to earn one. You try your best to meet that guy you found the first night every time he comes home. He doesn't say much in his emails, but he attaches pictures of his other family. The mother in you is desperate to feed all his boys better than the military. How can they fight eating MREs? The men he trains admire him, and you feel proud of your husband and of yourself for marrying the kind of man other men look up to, listen to, respect, are willing to protect with their own lives. He doesn't tell you 2 of the boys in the picture you're looking at will never hold their babies or touch their women with their own hands again. That one of them lost an eye too, and who knows what other challenges and injuries will grow in those festering wounds. If they're lucky, when they come back, maybe they'll meet Sergeant Dyer, a quadruple amputee who works on the base as an IED victim. They put a unit on patrol in a crowded bazaar and blow up an IED and Sergeant Dyer is rigged to explode like a Hollywood stuntman. Limbs fly, blood gushes, screams. A quadruple amputee reliving his worst day every day so he can help his brothers. You wave to him when you get groceries at the commissary. He nods back. The men who play Iraqis selling their wares in the NTC marketplace watch you shop, and you do your best not to eye them with suspicion or wonder if any of them are there to hurt you and your babies. They make you think like your husband, looking at everyone as a threat. They live on the base with you, in your desert, not theirs. He doesn't tell you about the group of dead children he saw who looked peaceful despite dying violently in fear. He doesn't tell you these things because he knows you'll only feel bad that you can't help all these children, dead boys and girls, toddlers and adolescents. You want to hold them like their mothers when they were babies and tell them they're loved and needed. He doesn't tell you most of the time. He doesn't know if he's killed anyone or not, mostly just firing so they won't fire back, shooting in the dark or through dust clouds created by the fighting, thick enough to jam your weapon. He doesn't tell you about the ones he knows for sure he killed either. But you know if he ever does, he did it to protect his family. He's a hero, but he'll never say it. He trains his men to survive, knowing some of them won't. When he comes home, he'll be a little different than the last time. And like the last time and the times before that, you'll have to get to know this new man, and he'll have to get to know the new you, the one who stopped telling him how she really feels so he can operate in his desert while you operate in yours. Still the same broad shoulders, marble body, and strong jawline. His memories of you have changed too, and he does his best to get to know you. Everything will be fine until he forgets he lives in your desert on the base and the house shakes.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Jess. Really appreciate it. I'm going to post in the chat, folks, the article that was written from a Q&A that was scripted when these folks won this particular challenge and everything like that. And Jess, you gave a extensive background story on how you came to writing this piece by interviewing a lot of Army wives and stuff while they were wandering this set that you were kind of showing them through and everything. And someone had pointed out in the chat that this is in a second person narrative, and it works so well for this particular piece. Did you go in knowing that you were going to write this in second person, or?
I used to work in television film, and the woman who produced, who got the show Criminal Minds on the air, also got the show Army Wives on the air. So she had spent a lot of time with actual Army wives that that book was first based on, and then the show. And so most of them were big fans of Criminal Minds. So a bunch of them wanted to come see the set and hopefully meet Shamar and a couple others. And so they came, and the crew wasn't there that day, neither of the actors, but I was working with the writing staff as an assistant, and I spent the whole day with about 30 or 35 women who lived on Fort Irwin. And the dynamics were very interesting because we had the colonel's wife, the commander of the base's wife, and officers all the way on down. So it was pretty interesting. Just spending the day with them. One of the women talked about her husband. He would train a group of soldiers. They would go over, and after 2 or 3 weeks, he'd leave and he'd have to come home. And that just sounded absolutely brutal. So the story is actually much longer. To answer your question, I prefer to write in second person a lot. I probably do it more than I should, but I just think it's a really interesting way to immediately put the audience right there in the perspective of your either your narrator or your hero, whoever it is. It's impossible not to feel I think what they're going through if it's in second person.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and it works so well again in this piece and stuff. And I think it almost feels like you are channeling these stories that you heard from these folks when you were leading them around on the set and everything. So thank you again so much for reading your piece with us tonight. And stick around. We'll have a Q&A after our next two readers. Paul,
Awesome.
do you want to
Thank
hop on? Yeah, thank you. Paul, you want to hop on and introduce our next reader?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So our next reader, and once again, I'm going to throw the a link to the story into the chat here. There we go. Our next reader is Jacqueline Coleman, and Jacqueline wrote the second place story, The Hope Index. Jacqueline is a MFA candidate in creative writing, and as the dean of the MFA program, I'm extremely proud of that and of her. At Southern New Hampshire University and a longtime communications professional. Based in Michigan, she now channels her storytelling skills into both her fiction and her creative business, where she helps others bring ideas to life through photography, writing, and brand development. You can usually find her writing her debut romantasy novel, cuddling her pets, or taking a well-earned nap. Jacqueline, welcome, and I will turn it over to you in blue.
Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it. First off, happy finals week to all who celebrate. I should say that first. So thanks for joining me as I read The Hope Index. My manager says hospitals smell like hope. It's better branding than what they actually smell like, which is dying children and hand sanitizer. They briefed me in the van. Our segment underperformed in secondary markets, the sympathy gap is widening, and the rival network is pushing a miracle twin arc that's testing well with families. The numbers matter more than the names, but I repeat the name once anyway, Eli. The steady beeping of monitors and hum of the camera rig sound sharp and hollow in the sterile hospital room. Someone's moved the IV line so the sponsor logo faces the lens. My handler adjusts the mic at my collarbone without creasing the blouse. We've learned which fabrics read compassionate on screen. He reminds me the Hope Index refreshes hourly. Spontaneous warmth ranks higher than memorized lines. Spontaneous warmth also requires rehearsal. Eli looks smaller in person than in the photos. Paper skin, a cap patterned with stars. I take his hand and check my lighting. A producer leans near the bed and makes the gesture we all know. Chin down, eyes soft. I lower my voice to the register that people use at funeral homes. Do you think you'll win? He asks, barely louder than the pump. It's not a contest, sweetheart. I smile. Of course it is. Every A-lister has a child. Every child has a number. We film a sequence called Everyday Courage. I pour juice into a cup with my left hand so my ring catches the light. He sips. We hold the pose for a beat that will play well with the backtracking. In the doorway, his mother keeps smoothing the hem of her cardigan. The director nods. We cut. In the green room, my manager scrolls the leaderboard. Second, if we can nudge a remission spike before the finale, you'll close the gap. A nurse walks by with an empty tray and pauses. You're very good at holding his hand, she says. That's the job, my manager answers for me. No, she says, it isn't. We don't use that footage. Kite Day is set for Thursday. The courtyard tree has been trimmed for a clean skyline. The star-shaped kite has the sponsor insignia across one side. Eli's cap keeps sliding back, exposing a pale scalp that reflects the set lights. I hang on to the spool. The team decided it looks steadier that way. On the third try, the kite lifts into the bright square of sky and Eli laughs, quick and thin. The sound tests well later. In the raw audio, I hear myself exhale off cue, as if I'd never heard the laughter of a dying child before. Back inside, a compliance officer asks the nurse to initial the sponsored doses bin. She does it without speaking, her lipstick painted in a thin line. Eli likes to draw when nothing hurts. Planets mostly, and a series of patterned stars and pairs. Stripes with stripes, dots with dots. After an hour, he holds up a page. 2 red stars, near identical. They want to stay together, he says. I tell him that's a good story. He asks if the stars win anything. I say they get to be a pair. He nods like I've told him the rules. At the end of the week, we tape a round table titled The Face of Care. We sit under pendant lights shaped like teardrops. Across from me is another celebrity, 3rd place last season. She tells me the trick is to cry from one eye only. Symmetry reads artificial, she says, then touches the corner of her left eye and produces a single tear. This side is more persuasive. After, my manager gives me a champagne-colored envelope. Inside is a card, Revitalife, Compassion Credit Statement. I have qualified for Youth Renewal Tier 2, Collagen Flush, Moderate Neurotoxin Stipend, Laser Support across common vectors of decline. It's a beautiful gift, he says. Do the credits expire? I ask. He smiles. Gratitude shouldn't. Eli's mother cries in the hallway once, not on schedule. She sinks to the floor near the vending machine with her hands inside her sleeves, cheeks pressed to the dirty tile like a person listening through a wall. I frown. She's supposed to save it for the montage. The cameras arrive too late for me to intervene. In the cut, we use a different cry from a better angle. The rival network airs a miracle recovery. We increase our bedside frequency to twice daily, vary the outfits to suggest unstaged visits, and reduce eyeliner for authenticity. I try to cry out of my left eye. Eli holds my hand. On a Tuesday before bedside, doctors rush into the room. My team debates whether to roll. Crisis footage is unpredictable after all. We decide to go in with a smaller rig and wide lens. Eli's breath is a shallow mechanical motion. His mother sits very still, eyes closed, as if not seeing can change the order of things. The nurse touches the inside of Eli's wrist with 2 fingers and looks at the door, then at the cart, then at the camera. When the alarm stops, the quiet that follows is not like normal silence. It's more like a plug removed from a wall. The showrunner asks if I can speak on the feed. It's mid-season, the timing is not ideal. I stand by the bed with my left shoulder angled to my best side. He taught me how to look up, I say. He taught me that hope is something you do. That line will work. I can tell by the way the producer inhales through his teeth and holds his breath. The edit team chooses B-roll. The kite, the stars, my hand on his hand, the mother's cardigan's hem smooth flat and flat again. The sponsor approves the segment. The Hope Index does something I've never seen it do. A sharp rise, a sustained line. A brand liaison calls my manager personally to say I've achieved platinum compassion youth renewal becomes lifetime access. The phrase is large and clean on the certificate. Eternal youth access, non-transferable. Congratulations, my manager says. He doesn't touch me. It isn't that kind of moment. I film another message. Loss teaches us to love deeper, I say, then rest my hand on my collarbone. We honor him by going on. In the evening, I look at my face in an ordinary mirror in the clinic restroom. The new skin is firm with no redness. The water from the tap smells like chemicals. The paper towels are rough. I press one in my cheek and count to 10, the way the esthetician taught me to keep the swelling down. They match me with a new child on Thursday, a girl this time, 8, blue eyes that shine even when she's tired. The mother signs the packet in careful hand. The room has been painted recently. The cartoon clouds on the wall still look wet. The producers adjust the chair by an inch, then by another inch, until the frames align. When I sit, the girl leans in like someone who already knows how to play the game. Hi, she says brightly, and squeezes me with the force that requires a reaction. She still has hair, blonde curls that match the color of mine. Welcome to the family, I say. I put my chin on her crown and close my eyes, counting to 5. 10 seconds felt too long. I didn't ask for her name. My manager goes over the schedule in the car. We should revisit the closing arc, he says. We lost the remission beat, but the tribute held the line. Next time, let's consider a risk frame earlier. That tested well in season 4. He scrolls past something I don't need to see. Also, there's a gentle push from upstairs to space out the bedside gowns. Too much of one color feels staged. I'll let the nurses know. The Revitalife portal pings, cycle scheduled. A digital badge appears beneath my profile photo. The design team has selected a glyph that resembles a star. At the next youth renewal appointment, the clinician uses a tone that is gentle. She asks me to relax my forehead. I do. She touches a gloved finger to a fresh place and says, I'll feel a little pinch. The room smells faintly of citrus and something clean. The network schedules the reveal for Monday. The girl's file calls her photogenic resilient. There is a note about a sibling who could be useful later. The sponsor wants a softer palate. I set an alarm without thinking, then unset it. Alarms cause wrinkles. My manager says hospitals smell like hope. In the van the next morning, the assistant reminds me the rival network has an advantage in the Midwest. My handler checks the mic. The schedule is tight. The girl will be waiting. The door opens. We continue.
Wow. Jacqueline, thank you so much for that story and that wonderful reading of the story. I mean, I hardly know where to begin. It's such a dystopic world that you're presenting there. It's so bleak that one looks for some flashes of humor and black comedy just to be able to bear it. And you provide that as well. That must have been a tough story to write.
It was I would say fun because it's so dark and it's almost humorous how dark it is from a celebrity point of view.
Yeah, it gave me reminded me a little, and I mean this as a high compliment. It reminded me of some of George Saunders's work in creating that, that just seemingly effortless future dystopian scenario and leavening it with some humor. So thank you so much for that. And We'll have you back on in just a bit to participate in the Q&A. And Jacob, I'm going to turn it over to you for the next story.
All right, thank you so much, Paul. So yes, this is going to be our final story for the night. Final guest is Caitlin Burry, who will be reading her first place story, How to Eat a Pomegranate. Caitlin Burry is an emerging fiction writer with a passion for storytelling that bends the boundaries and rules of the written world. She is dedicated to crafting emotionally driven fiction that explores themes of identity, resilience, and belonging. Caitlin gravitates towards dystopian, queer, and young adult fiction, but refuses to confine herself to a single genre or style of writing. She believes powerful stories can exist anywhere, as long as they leave a lasting impact on their readers. She knows all too well that sometimes a good story is the only thing shining light into readers' lives during their darkest hours. Alongside her creative ambitions to become a published author, Caitlin aspires to work as both a publicist and an editor, supporting other writers in bringing their stories to life while continuing her own journey toward publication. What a lovely bio. I really enjoyed reading that. Caitlin, are you available to come on and
Yes.
read for us?
Yes.
Excellent. There you are. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and spotlight you just real quick,
Okay.
and then I'm going to hop off camera. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So this is my story, How to Eat a Pomegranate. It is a how-to article with a teaspoon of vampiric horror. Red things stain quickly. Remember to handle them with care. Step 1. Select your fruit. When selecting the perfect pomegranate, it's best to feel the weight first. Hold the fruit in your palm and let your fingers trace its curves and imperfections. Feel the tension beneath its skin. Do not depend on looks alone. A bruised pomegranate makes for excellent flavor. Notice the color. Red, yes, but also purple, and not flat whatsoever. The color seems to pulse, hinting that it carries delicacy beneath its surface. Now, notice the imperfections. The edges and bruises, the different shades of red, the texture. Do not be discouraged. A perfect exterior is rare and often uninteresting. Find comfort in your decision. You'll find that some ripen too fast and rot before you even notice, while others are rotten from the very beginning. Choose one that feels alive in your hand. Trust your decision. Step 2. Make the cut. Take a sharp knife down the center of the fruit and then again horizontal. This will separate your fruit into 4 sections. Sit your knife down carefully, out of sight. Slowly take your fingers and pull the sections apart, slowly enough to recognize the seeds comfortably nestled inside, each glinting red with promise of flavor. Some seeds are sweet, while some are bitter. You will never find a seed that is just right. Settle for the sweeter seed. It will make for a better experience. Pluck a seed from its quiet resting place and hold it carefully between the tips of your pointer finger and thumb. You may imagine it pulsing, similar to the pulsing you feel beneath its skin prior. The pulsing makes it seem alive. The juice will trickle down your fingers and onto your wrists. Let it. Do not clean your hands. The stain is proof. Step 3. Taste. Bring the seed to your lips and press lightly. If you bite too hard, its vein will burst too soon, and you will be left unfulfilled. Let it break beneath your teeth. Taste its sweetness first, then take note of the metallic tang that lingers. You will become very fond of that taste. Notice how easily it stains your fingertips, your lips, your teeth. It stains everything it touches. Do not attempt to wash the stain away. Do not attempt to wipe it clean. The stain is proof that you have touched it, that you have tasted, and that you have allowed yourself to be changed. You may want to chew the seed. If you do, remember to cherish each bite. You may also be satisfied with the single bite and the burst of flavor it leaves behind. You may start to feel a pulse lingering in the stain it leaves behind. The pulse is comforting. It may become difficult to recognize the difference between its pulse and yours. Take special note of its beauty and delicacy. Step 4. Let the stain settle. Do not begin the cleanup process. Notice how the blood of the fruit clings to everything it touches. It seems heavier now, like something permanent. The red seems more vivid, yet also dark and sticky. You realize it's not just a color, but rather the residue of something that was once alive. A pulse beneath your skin seemingly echoes it. The fruit is no longer. It is something new, something that hungers within. Step 5, observe. Hold your hands out in front of you. Watch how the stains have spread, seeping into the gentle folds of your skin, the red consuming the once pure rivers of your palms as if to stake its claim. The taste lingers and will always be there, either physically or in the back of your mind. You will never rid yourself of the taste, the smell, the stains. You expected sweetness in the bite, but was met with an uncontrollable aching hunger and a sharp metallic taste. Continue to relish in the glory of the fruit. Allow it to consume your every sense of self. You will begin to feel a pull. Allow yourself to be pulled. You will begin to desire to taste more, to feel more, to be more. Step 6, consideration, reflection, and repetition. The pulp and seeds you have consumed may have been merely a taste of what can truly be offered. Notice how your heart seemingly no longer beats as one rhythm, but rather a cacophony of small, minuscule pulses and beats right beneath the surface. Your skin crawls with the movement of the seeds as they internalize themselves, making a new home in your vessel. You can feel the pulse of each seed you ate echo within you. Question if it's you that hungers or if it's the fruit you've consumed. Step 7, let it consume you. Consume the remaining seeds of the pomegranate. You cannot control the endless pit of hunger within that begs for more of that sweet, metallic taste. You don't fight it. You let the hunger consume you as you allow the stain of the pomegranate to linger on your soul, your sense of being. Let the stains remain as proof, warning, and memory. Attempt to listen to your heartbeat and grow overwhelmed with the multitude of sounds beating back at you. Step 8, leave the mess. Do not scrub your hands till they bleed. It will only cause more red to spill. The stain will not come out. It will not come out of your skin, your clothes, or your soul. Leave the mess behind. Leave all the evidence and proof behind, splattered amongst the floor and yourself. Remember, what you've become is worth the mess and effort it took. Your craving is not an inconvenience. Your change is as necessary as the mess it took to explore the delicacy of a pomegranate. Step 9, repeat.
Thank you so much, Caitlin, for sharing that with us. And congratulations on winning first prize in this year's fall fiction contest.
Thank
Um,
you.
Yes, and yeah, there were several comments in the chat. I just want to comment on this as well. Love the pacing of this story and how it's separated by steps and how each one is kind of bite-sized in its own way. And another second person narrative as well. What made you decide to write in second person for this one?
I am strictly a second person or third person writer. I'm not good with first person or even reading first person personally. So it just felt like what was right,
Yeah.
kind of like teaching another person.
Okay. Wonderful. Yeah, that's really interesting because I mean I it's just so cool to see that there's been such a shift towards the second and third person as well, of course, is a little bit more frequent and common, but like I'm loving
Yeah.
these second person stories and stuff. So thank you so much for sharing that. Jess and Jacqueline, if you want to hop on camera as well, and Paul, we can open it up for a Q&A. I think we have like 2 or 3 extra minutes this year, which is
I know,
fantastic.
That's true. And I'm sorry, I just wanted to remind people that if you have questions for our readers and winners, please post them in the chat and Jacob and I will make sure that the questions are asked.
Yes, and I think just to get things rolling and stuff, I'm gonna start with a basic one. What made you decide to submit your work to the Fall Fiction Contest? And what advice do you have for those out there who may be hesitant about submitting their own work to either contests or just to literary journals in general? Jacqueline, let's start with you.
So this is my second year submitting to the contest. I remember when I joined the MFA program, I remember sitting here at Word for Word 3 years ago now, I think, and listening to the readers actually read their stories and think, wow, that is so cool. I've never even thought about writing short stories. So it was always kind of a fun challenge for me. And I actually didn't know if I was going to submit this year because it is so competitive. And, you know, I actually had a different story idea I was writing. And on the last day of the contest, I wrote this story. So I
Wow.
wrote this
That's
story in a day.
incredible.
Because it was an idea I had from like 5 or 6 years ago, and I'm like, you know, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna try it. Why not? It's probably not gonna be perfect. And you know, I ended up placing with that story. So follow your gut, especially with your story idea. If you're really passionate about it, it doesn't hurt to submit it. Doesn't mean that you're not a good writer if you're not selected. There's so many good stories out there, so many good writers I know that submitted to this contest. It's just you know, make sure you don't give up on that at all.
Fantastic. That's I couldn't find a better answer. That's quite a answer to follow, actually. And Jess, I'm sorry to do this again to you tonight, but I want to hear what why you decided to submit for this particular contest and what advice you'd have for those out there who are maybe hesitant to do so otherwise.
Money. Yeah.
Money. Okay.
Just money. Really, yeah. I saw that there was if honestly, if there hadn't been a you know, some sort of scholarship, you know, part of the prize, I probably wouldn't have submitted because it meant taking more time away from the classes I was in to re-edit a story. You know, I had to take 1,000 words out and move a lot of stuff around and shift a few ideas. So yeah, that was the prime motivator for this particular contest. But I mean, anybody who's watching this is probably a writer or one of our family members or something. But you know, I always ask young writers, why do you write? And they'll think for a second, and I'll say, before you answer, there's only one answer. And if you really want to be a writer, and then they'll get confused, and it's just because you have to. So if you know, if you're here because you write stories, you're here because you have to write stories. So you might as well try and get them out there if you've got something that's got a beginning, middle, and an end, and see what people think. Because that's the, you know, even if it's not your goal, I mean, I think we all do kind of want an audience. So you might as well go get it.
Fantastic. And yes, absolutely. So thank you. Awesome for sharing that. And Caitlin, what about you?
So when I first saw that the competition was happening, I was like, oh, that's cool, but I don't have anything to enter. And I'm notoriously known for writing way too much for it to be a short story. Like my discussion posts are embarrassingly long just because I can't shorten it. But after reading V.E. Schwab's Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, I was kind of struck with this vampiric inspiration. And then I had the brilliant idea to turn it into a how-to article, which I thought would grab the judge's attention and other people's attention. And I just thought it was really unique. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll submit it, but I had no expectations whatsoever because I never win anything. So I just kind of did it on a whim. I also submitted it on the very last day. It was kind of just sitting in my Google Drive. But yeah, I decided to go for it because I was actually really proud of the piece.
Well, thank you so much. Wow. All great answers. If I could summarize, I would steal from Nike and say, just do it, right? Just submit your work. You got to find that audience. And even if it's the last day, go for it. And find out and seek out those contests that resonate with you. So thank you so much for sharing your answers there. Paul, I'll turn it over to you to ask the next question.
Sure. And again, I want to just remind people, if you have questions of your own, please post them in the chat. So I'm kind of wondering, who are some of the writers that have influenced you in your development as a writer, and what are your goals as writers? I mean, for those of you who are in the MFA program, it's to write a novel, but not everybody here is in the MFA program. So I'd be curious about that as well. And Caitlin, I'm just going to throw it right back to you to start.
So my journey kind of started, I was like 11 when I found the Maze Runner series. You probably know it. I fell in love with it. I watched the movies first and then fell in love with the books. And I actually met the author. That's how obsessed I was with it. And just the kind of way he made his own dystopian world, I knew I wanted to be a part of that. And I recently got into V.E. Schwab and her books. I'm reading The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue right now, and I just love the way she writes. It just feels so perfect, and I love it so much. Um, Ultimately, my goal is I just want a single person to just fall headfirst into my fictional creations the same way I did with the Maze Runner series, and just love it so much and have the same impact that that series had on me personally. And I also want to shine lights on topics that are often dismissed in novels. And I especially want to focus with queer centric stories in novels and stuff like that as well.
Very cool. Jess, how about you?
My dad was an English teacher. He just retired after 51 years teaching last May.
Awesome.
So there was always stacks of books like right here, everywhere, a lot of trips to the library. But I was a movie guy, and so it took me. I mean, there were authors I liked and stuff, but it took me a while to kind of find an author that I really maybe also want to write, a novel or short stories or something like that. And my writing professor in college, this Peter Johnson, he recommended T.C. Boyle, If the River Was Whiskey, to me, and I picked that up and was just like, oh. And then in class we read Jesus' Son by Dennis Johnson.
Oh,
And I was
God.
like, oh.
Yes.
And then a girlfriend introduced me to Kurt Vonnegut right after I graduated, and there were a few others came after that. And then I've been lucky enough to work with George Pelecanos and Mark Richard, Mark Richard, by the way, if you want to get good at short story writing, pick up Ice at the Bottom of the World. It's unbelievable. He was couch surfing when he won the Penn Hemingway Award. He was homeless, basically. Unbelievable. And he wrote a memoir in second person, which is, if you could think about a memoir, never using the word I in a memoir, or me, pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So Mark Richard, check him out. But I was lucky enough also to just be surrounded by really good storytellers, whether it was my dad or teachers or my mom's uncles or whoever it was. So it just made me want to tell stories, whatever it is.
Jacqueline, what about you?
Oh man, I was a Harry Potter kid, and I always wished there was more romance in Harry Potter. I was one of those people. And then Jane Austen was a huge discovery for me, I'd say, in middle school, and she became just my absolute hero. I have like a Jane Austen prayer candle next to my Taylor Swift one up here, and just her life story really inspired me. And from then on, I've always loved the idea of writing fantasy with more romance than I ever got in Star Wars or in Harry Potter. And of course that's a huge genre now, right? So
Right.
but it's something I always was kind of inspired to do.
Your timing is impeccable in that regard.
I know.
Awesome. Well, geez, like I said, we had a couple extra minutes of Q&A this time, which is just wonderful because
It still went by in a flash of an eye.
it went by in a flash, but all of your answers were just, wonderful. It's just so great to hear your stories and how you came to, be inspired to write in the first place and why you chose to share these stories and submit to this particular contest and everything has just been wonderful. And hearing you read your work aloud has been great too. So unfortunately, we're at the end of our time, but I do want to thank our Penman Review Fall Fiction Contest winners again, Jess Proser, Jacqueline Coleman, and Caitlin Brewery for sharing their work with us today. And thank you to Ryan Fagan and Andrea Lasowski for allowing us to read their winning pieces. You can read their stories as well as an abundance of stories and other readings and writing related articles as well at penmanreview.com. Just added a archive drop down button on the right hand side of that website, so it's a little easier to jump back throughout the years and read pieces over the past 11 years that we've had. But I just posted in our chat tonight the 5 winners again for the Fall Fiction Contest, so please Feel free to click on any of those links and reread the pieces tonight. We're so glad that you could join us this evening, and thank you so much again to you, Jess, Jacqueline, and Caitlin for sharing your work. Be sure to keep an eye out for details about our next Word for Word event, folks. It's coming up fast, just like all of them, right? A month goes by fast nowadays. But next one is on Wednesday, of course, February 18th. It's going to feature young adult writer Melinda Lowe. So for those who are fans of young adult writers or Melinda Lowe or both, make sure you mark your calendars. You'll see events about that or announcements of that coming up to register and attend. And you can, again, win a chance or have a chance to win a copy of one of Melinda's books if you do register for the event. Until then, thank you again, everyone, Jacqueline, Jess, and Caitlin for coming. Best of luck with your future endeavors as well. I hope to read your work as well again. If you choose to submit to Penmen too, again, feel free to. But yes, I hope to see it in future magazines across the nation. And thank you for just tonight. It's been wonderful.
Yep. Thank you all so much.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you, Jacob. and
See you
Paul.
next month.
It was nice meeting you, Jess and Caitlin.
Yeah,
Me
you too.
too.